Here's a little thing you might remember. In 2010 and 2011, Kings Island welcomed the Half Pint Brawlers to the park for their Halloween Haunt event. I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics. Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are, and that is who we care about the most. So, okay, I don't know where to start, so let's just start from the beginning. Who? Who had this idea? Who?
Well, it was, obviously it came from the marketing team, operations. A couple people, got together and had this idea about what if we brought them in. They had a television show. They have Pint Brawlers. And what if we brought them in for Halloween Haunt? At that time, the mandate was to make it edgy, make it different, get people talking, no matter what it took, just get people talking. And they fit that bill. So, they brought the lead guy. His name was Puppet. They brought, that was his character name. They brought him in to just kind of walk the park, show them where they could do this, and look at the venue, which was the Fest House. And this was, toward the end of August. Just the number of people that were coming up and recognized Puppet and wanted to get pictures with him, get his autograph, and that just told the park that everyone knows who they are. So, at least it's going to be recognizable. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. And, they had the ring set up in the Fest House. It was normally standing room only crowds. It was hit or miss on whether the guest, some of them really loved it, got really into it. And others thought, it was in poor taste. And, but they had a 2-year run. And, it was definitely talked about a lot, whether it was social media, a little bit of controversy, in terms of some news media stories about, was it in the right kind of taste and that, but it was what Haunt was about back then.
Yeah. So one of my distinct memories of this is that they had they did their first run, and then they had a special match on the last night where they did something with tax. Then they came back and they did another run and they did something else. I don't remember what the gimmick was for the match, but Puppet announced that for the third year they were going to bring in a 10-foot tall cage. No, wait, I'm sorry. The second year they were going to do something with cattle prods, and like Cedar Fair was like, no, you're not. But or some maybe the Ohio Sports Commission. There's a lot of hands in the pot when it comes to pro wrestling, I've come to find out. But anyway, so he announced that they were going to do a cage match for the final match the third year, but the third year never happened. I'm guessing he was speaking out of turn when he invited himself back for the third year.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a year-to-year thing anyway, and at that point in time, the direction of Haunt was changing a little bit. Make it more about the quality instead of quantity in terms of things around the park. It wasn't just going to slap skeletons and whatever you could anywhere you could. It was going to be making it a little bit more polished, and they've done a great job at that. So yeah, maybe a little bit out of turn thinking the third year with that, but I mean, it drew big crowds. Everyone was coming in, enjoying their meals in the Fest House and, trying to get their seats there. We had the ringside seats and everything too, that were there. And, it was entertaining, and they would do some, things to go out in the audience, and, they just grab someone's pizza and smash it on, one of the other wrestlers' faces, and, things like that, things I had to take care of when the guests weren't happy when those kind of things happened after. And I wouldn't be either if you, paid for a full, large pizza and somebody took it and just smashed it against somebody else. But the tax, you mentioned that, they would lay them out on the mat, and when they were wrestling, they were falling into it and rolling into it.
Very real.
They were sticking to their arms and their foreheads, and they were stapling dollar bills to their cheeks and things, and very intense. So they really did put on a good show. They took a lot of hits doing that. Trash cans, banging them over, smashing them over their heads and that. So it was authentic in terms of the wrestling. That's for sure.
I agree. Did you ever once, like, while you were doing this campaign, stop to think, like, is this in poor taste? Like, did you ever have a moral conflict, or what?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you tell
Yeah,
your side,
yeah.
and then I'll tell mine. And this is a story I've never told you before.
Well, I mean, it was, I knew that there was going to be some that, were going to think it was great. There's the audience that watched their show that was going to think it was going to be great.
Mm,
But there's also going to be that group that, would see it in poor taste, and I had to try to balance that. I knew we had to promote it,
mm,
but I didn't want to go over the top with it, so I didn't. I just made sure people were aware it was there. I didn't want to, make that the focal point of Halloween Haunt at all. It was just, we have these shows, and it was just one of the shows that we had. So I tried to just balance it. But yeah, there was a little bit of a conflict with that because I didn't want, people to think that, um, this was me, what I was all about, was that kind of a thing either. I thought it had its place, and I tried to position it where it fit, but I didn't try to make it anything on my end that was going to be, make it what Haunt was about. There were still the mazes to talk about, the scare zones, the other shows, the rides, just the full package of Haunt, and this was just one element of it. What about you?
So I have to admit, and I mentioned I never really told you this before, but doing so, just to look behind the curtain, I helped you with some promotional videos at the time. I really wanted to work in marketing at Kings Island for a long time, and this was one of the things I felt like I had to do in order to impress the right people. But I felt terrible about myself the whole time. I've never felt more dirty and dishonest, and I just felt just awful about it. And I actually had two different people, and I'm not going to say their name on the air, email me from full timers at Kings Island, like, how do you really feel about this? And I was honest with both of them, and I said, well, I feel like we're making fun of somebody. We're making entertainment out of making fun of somebody with a disability. It's not,
Yeah, you're taking advantage of their, at their expense to do this,
yeah.
but I think the thing that for me that was helpful was that they had their own television show.
Well, yeah, yeah. But but I did get to meet them. So I went with you to WBN early in the morning. They were on the dawn patrol, I think. And I got to know Puppet the Psychodorf rather well. And the 27, 28-year-old me bought into this whole thing of they love doing this, they have fun. They always said we love being midgets and stuff, but I think 40-year-old me wouldn't. I would have distanced myself from it because I feel like they did a lot of that stuff because they've been socially trained that they're different and they're strange and they're awkward, and that's where the core of it comes from. Now, if they can make a career out of this stuff, then God bless them. Like I said, I personally really liked them, and they chose
Yeah,
to
and
do
I got to
this.
know the lead guy. Yeah, I got to know the lead guy Puppet pretty well, and we kept in touch after that. Unfortunately, he passed away,
Yeah, he passed away a
a
few
few
years
years ago.
ago, but yeah, when
Yeah,
when he came back the second year, he wasn't even wrestling anymore. He was in too bad a shape. But
yeah. Like I said, he took a pounding doing that. That wrestling, and he was all in, and and they really did they put on a good show.
they did.
But yeah, but at the time, when you look at it and what Haunt was at that time, and trying to be edgy, and it kind of fit, what was going on at the time. Would it fit today? No, not a chance.
Yeah, there's no way you could have gotten away with it today. And honestly, it's like I don't hold a grudge against anybody that worked for the park at that time, or you, or the marketing team or anything like that, because I felt like at the time it might have oddly been the right, from a business standpoint, it was the right decision. It was a perfect fit, and it sold very well, and it was visual. They were great on the radio. Um, yeah, I mean, heck, even you made me make a promo vid. You made me. You forced me to make a promo video for it. But so I put I just cut up the audio from what Puppet had said at some different points, and it's like and I didn't know you guys were doing this, but you used it for the show announcement, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever because it had Marilyn Manson's "Beautiful People." Just not,
Hmm.
I'm not a big Marilyn Manson fan or anything, but I thought it was just the perfect beat for this stuff. And it had "Who's ready to see a midget bleed? The Half Pint Brawlers are." Like I wish we had the footage of that because I think it's lost to the YouTube algorithm or something. But it worked very well audio wise. I remember you had to do office things, so I had to entertain those guys. I took them back to Great Wolf Lodge, and they were beating up on Turtle because he was late because he slept through the morning because he was going out drinking with your former. I'm not going to say what their position was in the park because that's going to dox them, but uh, interesting guys, definitely interesting. I've got many DV tapes somewhere of them beating the heck out of each other. I think Puppet jumped on him and farted on his head or something. So they
Yeah, I mean,
they
yeah, for me, I mean, when I think back to, two of the, you know, the things that, you're really proud of, the highlights and everything, that doesn't come to mind with that, which is part of the attractions that we had at Halloween
yeah.
Haunt.
Well, and it's I okay, so there are certain things that if I were you, I'd be proud of. Uh I went to the school of Bill Mefford when it came to marketing. And Mefford always anytime somebody fails, not even anytime somebody fails, even if a park does something and I think it's stupid, he's like, "Oh, they're willing to take a chance." Like that's the first thing out of his mouth. And you guys did. This could have gone horribly wrong. Horribly wrong.
There was a lot of things that could have gone horribly wrong that we did, back in the early days of my time there, between the Knievel jump, the Walinda walks, the half pint brawlers. I mean, there was a lot of things that could have gone wrong, but it was those things that you had to do because at that time the park wasn't getting a lot of major big new attractions in those early years of my time there. It wasn't until 2009 that Diamondback came
Yeah.
in, but then it was 2014 before Banshee were there. So you needed those things that were kind of intermittent, and there was a lot of competition during the Halloween season.
Oh, time
So you needed
especially.
to do some
Did you know
things that,
Ohio is the #1 state for haunted houses? That's how much competition they run. Even in the Cincinnati market, they've got like Land of Illusion and stuff, which has like 6 haunted houses too. You could argue that's an amusement park. It technically has rides, and
yeah.
that's
So I mean,
that's
there's just a lot of things you have to do to make yourself stand out in a crowded market, and this was one of those things. And like I said, some people loved it, some people didn't, and it's just part now of the history of Halloween Haunt.
so it went to Kansas City the second year, right? But that was a 1 year run. They didn't do a second year, did they?
No, they kind of split off, and some of them went to Kansas City, and the other stayed at Kings Island.
Yeah, because I remember Mad Mex was that his name? The other guy that was with us.
Matt Mad Max, yeah,
Yeah, the one that where his gimmick was that he didn't speak English, but secretly he didn't speak a lick of Spanish, but he was Hispanic.
right.
But he was from Kansas City. I remember him telling me he was a truck driver uh, before he got found by Puppet. And then Turtle did not have the walking ability to really wrestle, so he was more of like their promoter. Turtle was the shortest one of them all, and but he would go out on his little scooter and start promote, not as if it needed promoting. That was the first time I've ever seen the fest house hit capacity. They do that now where they only let certain amounts of people into the fest house, but that was the first time I had ever seen that happen.
Yeah, one of the things I remember about this, now that we're talking, is on the Fridays of Halloween Haunt, in that afternoon, I would have to go with someone else from the marketing department. We would go to Walmart and buy the 10 garbage cans
Oh yeah,
because they would just destroy them by the end of the weekend. They weren't any good anymore. So we would always have to go buy, 5 or 6 new trash cans every week. So that was part of my job, was to go get those trash cans.
another memory that I have is this wouldn't. I don't think I ever went backstage in the fest house, but maybe this was like after WBN when they had so Puppet's thing. The head wrestler was he would have people staple dollars to his head, and you'd think there's some sort of like gimmick dollar gimmick. No, it's a for real stapler, and it wasn't like a stapler like the red stapler on Office Space. It was like a Home Depot stapler, and it would go right to it, and he would just have a casual conversation while he's pulling these staples out of his head, and blood's rushing. I remember this. Okay, this is where this came from because we thought it would be hilarious for him to run into the call center, which was back by your office at the time, and staple $1 to his head and gross out all like the 18, 19-year-old girls that work in there. So he ran in there, stapled $1 to his head. They all screamed, and then he came out and he pulled it out just casually, and he was just gushing blood. So I took him into the bathroom there, and like I remember cleaning like this biohazard off of the floor with all the all the blood that was on the floor. But yeah, I have fond memories of those guys. Like I said, I don't think that I would participate in that if you offered it to me today, but I did it, and I don't know if I have regrets or not, but I'm glad I met him. I'm glad that part of my life was a thing, and it was.
Yeah, I mean, they were really good people, and like I said, I kept in touch with Puppet, for years afterward,
Mhm.
and but they're just part now of the when you think about Halloween Haunt and the evolution of it, they're just one piece of that.
So Puppet passed away. Have you kept up with any of the other ones?
No, he was the one I kept in touch with.
Yeah, he was the most talkative one and stuff. Okay, so yeah, so for those of you too young to remember, Kings Island had midget wrestling for a couple of years during Haunt. Whatever. I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.